Poverty has become an increasingly problematic issue across the United States. It has become nearly impossible to walk through a city street without seeing a homeless person, or to stroll down a block without a tent or a tarp. Eviction plays a key role in the number of people without access to housing. Almost 3.7 million American renters have experienced eviction in their lifetimes. Eviction contributes to job loss, separation of families, and inevitable homelessness. The growing number of people sleeping in shelters and in public spaces, and increasing demands for more legal protections for renters are representative of the larger issue of poverty. However, these requests by struggling tenants have not been met. The absence of extensive legal securities that adequately prevent corrupt landlords from making tenants pay overpriced rents and substandard housing conditions resulting from eviction cause many poor Americans to fall into deep and irrecoverable poverty. To begin with, a lack of legal protections for tenants against cruel landlords has produced an extreme number of evictions. Landlords want to generate the most money they can from their tenants. If a tenant is able to pay the rent without any trouble, landlords will often increase the amount. They will enforce this unfair method of collecting rent, often until tenants are no longer able to, without spending portions of their incomes they need to buy necessities, such as water and consumables. The tenants are then evicted from their homes, and new renters are moved in who can pay the larger price. However, legal systems seem to favor landlords. As Noah Greinberg and Tyler Anderson, co-directors of the Los Angeles Center for Community Law and Action, put it, under state law, a landlord who sues his tenant for eviction has the right to go to trial within 20 days after the tenant files an answer. Meanwhile, if a tenant wants to sue his landlord for failing to make repairs, or not accommodating a disability, or illegally increasing rent, or even stalking and harassment, the tenant has to wait many times longer, up to a year or more, before getting a day in court. Because the court proceedings of landlords are drastically expedited compared to those of renters, landlords hold an extreme advantage over these tenants. And, since impoverished renters spend the majority of their income on housing, legal protection is often too expensive. Greinberg and Anderson dive deeper into the problems courts pose for tenants facing eviction, indicating that landlords hit tenants with repeated waves of trumped-up eviction lawsuits, even when tenants are meeting the obligations of their lease. For the cost of only a few $100s in filing fees, landlords can boot a leaseholder and find new renters. The process of evicting tenants is skewed unfairly in favor of the landlords, scrambling to make a couple extra bucks. The increase in rent prices generated by landlords and eviction makes it harder for those removed to recover from poverty. Poor living conditions tenants face after eviction contribute to the grander scheme of poverty as well. When tenants are evicted, records of these evictions, as well as of court filings, are stored. Matthew Desmond brings this to light in his novel, Eviction, Poverty, and Profit in the American City, when he announces there are hundreds of data mining companies that sell landlords tenant screening reports listing past evictions and court filings. Landlords are able to use this information given to them by these companies to ignore any inquiry by a person evicted in the past. As a result, these people, often families, are incapable of finding housing. Kansas City, where an average of 42 eviction cases are filed every day, is a prominent example of eviction jeopardizing ex-renters' ability to find decent and affordable housing. Chronic debt, health problems, and worse educational outcomes for children involved are just a few outcomes for those that are lucky. The most common outcome of eviction is homelessness. Poor neighborhoods that struggle from out-of-control crime rates often see surges in homelessness when families that feel unsafe attempt to move. Matthew Desmond, in an article in the American Journal of Sociology, acknowledges that, as crime on a block is perceived to increase or as tenants grow weary of substandard conditions, they might seek out new places to live. Studies have shown, moreover, that African Americans are less likely than other racial and ethnic groups to move because of neighborhood dissatisfaction. Because impoverished renters are not able to completely pay the rent in safer communities, they must remain in the same miserable conditions they already live in. Low-income families live every day with the possibility that it might be the last time they will be able to sleep under a roof. The absence of extensive legal securities that adequately prevent corrupt landlords from making tenants pay overpriced rents and substandard housing conditions resulting from eviction cause many poor Americans to fall into deep and irrecoverable poverty. Evictions run rampant in cities, almost always in low-income and racially and ethnically diverse neighborhoods. Landlords looking to maximize rent profits often evict families who spend up to 50% of their annual incomes on housing. Those looking to keep their homes lack the funds and resources to sufficiently protect themselves from eviction, making it all but inevitable. Furthermore, finding safe and livable housing after eviction becomes nearly impossible, significantly contributing to homelessness in America. To resolve the growing eviction epidemic in the foreseeable future, Americans must make housing more affordable, initiate higher wage growth, and take measures to ensure tenants being evicted have proper legal representation.